Thank you. We first want to thank the Tournament of Rosies Committee for a great week. It's been a long week. It's been a long month. And then just talking to Coach Saban, I know the coaches and the players are ready to go and see who is the best team in the country. It's been when you have a month and 2 days to prepare, what you do is you go back and try to correct all the mistakes that you made at the end of the season, and at the same time prepare for the best team in the country, that the number one team in the country that's well coached and very talented. And it's challenging, but at the same time it's exciting to see how you match up against the best. We also have so many of our current NFL guys coming back for the game. It'll be fun. I think there's about 17 to 20 that have said that they'll be here. A number of them have already come out to practice and have been around the team and were able to speak to the team, so it's fun to have them back. But excited about the game. When you start with 120 teams and it's down to 2, that's about 12,000 players, and it's a great honor for your players and your coaches to be in this game. Questions?
On the far left, front row.
Hey, Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Jeff Power, News 8 Austin. Give us your thoughts about what makes Nick Saban so successful.
I really admire what Nick's done. If you look at what he's done, he's coached at every level. He's been an assistant coach, a coordinator, head coach at 3 different schools now, and done very well in all of those. He's a successful professional assistant and head coach, so he gets it. He's driven. He works very hard. His teams are very disciplined. They're well coached. And he wins at everything he touches. So I just think when you see what he does, you just admire the way he handles his business, the way he runs his program. He's in charge, he's confident, and his teams play like that.
Back row on the right.
Bob Ballou, CBS Austin. Coach is back here, Coach.
Where are you, Bob? There you go.
Is 32 days too long between games, and what can be done to change that, even if there's no playoff?
For the coaches, it's probably not. I mean, we can use it all. For the players, they lose part of their Christmas, they lose part of their New Year, and as we all talk about trying to take care of the players, our guys go back to school here in about a week, and then we have spring practice the end of February. So I wish there was a way that we could move this game at least back maybe a week. And I think that when you see it for the kids, because of what's at stake, they're excited about it. Now I want to be here. So I don't want to insinuate it anyway. Our guys are griping about how much time they've spent. But it's a lifetime experience for them. But I do think that if it could be cut down, it would be better. Our game in the Fiesta Bowl last year was the 4th, and we thought that was even manageable. But when you get to the 7th, I think the game last year was the 8th. It starts getting into the semester. I think Alabama had to call school off for 2 or 3 days because they were getting ready to start school before the game. And then a lot of our friends that are teachers and coaches had to start school again and couldn't come out to the game.
Back row on the left.
Coach Brown, ABC El Paso, Texas, back here.
Okay.
Talk about the emotion of your team. Have you had to clamp down on them, or do you want to clamp down on them this final couple of days?
When you've got 122 guys and 64 of them will play, they all have different personalities. It's like you'd nearly like to get them in different rooms and try to get each one of them ready to play separately. Because if you take Sergio Kendall and Colt McCoy, it's hard to give them the same speech. So you have to look at different speeches when you're different things. So what we try to do is throw enough stuff on the wall that some of it sticks for each one of them. So you try to excite this one this way and this one this way, and we challenge our assistant coaches and our coordinators to work with their groups. We challenge each player to get himself motivated in the way he needs to win this ball game. And then my job is to try to make sure that there's some balance, that it's one of the unique things about bowl games. How much do you hit? Because you have to hit because you take the month off. You don't want to hit too much to get them tired. You don't want to hit too much to get them hurt. How much do you do your best against your best? When you're playing a team like Alabama that's so talented, you need to play against fast guys and tough guys. So we've done that for a full month. How much do you condition? And then how tired do they get when they practice and they handle the bowl routine and they're out at the functions? So it's really a unique experience to try to get a team ready for a one-game season that means this much for 3.5 hours. What we will do is have a blend of some fun tomorrow with them before the game, and again, give them the last-minute adjustments that we feel like that they need to focus on to win a game.
Third row on the right.
Rachel Barbeau, Tuscaloosa News. How are you, Coach?
Hey, Rachel.
I talked to some of your players yesterday, and they were talking about Texas football. And I asked them, what is Texas football? And they said it was fast, furious, fun, physical, with a swagger, playing with a swagger. I was just interested in your definition of Texas football.
Well, they usually say what we say. They usually repeat it, Rachel. So, very honestly, what you want to be fast. You want to have fun. You want to be physical. And I wasn't the smartest guy in the world, so one day I said, it's full of F's. Be fast, have fun, be physical. And they all said, yeah, boy.
Middle back.
Some of them didn't get it. That bothered me more.
On your right, Coach.
Coach, Leslie McCaslin, News 8 Austin.
Yes,
here.
Leslie.
A lot of your players, especially the younger ones, talked yesterday about how they can't imagine what they're going to feel like when they step on the field for the first time during the game. As a coach, even though you've been here 3 times now, do you take a moment to relish when you first get out there at the beginning of the game?
When we came here in 04 for the 05 Michigan game, I thought it was the coolest thing, and I didn't know what to do, because a young guy from Cookeville, Tennessee, would never be able to coach or play in the Rose Bowl. Same thing for Alabama. I grew up an Alabama fan. I watched Coach Bryant, but you didn't come west. You know, you played in the Cotton Bowl, and you played in the Orange Bowl, and you played in the Sugar Bowl, but this was taboo for us. So I actually called John Robinson, who I admired Coach McKay so much, who won a bunch of Rose Bowls at SC, and Coach Robinson. So I called Coach Robinson and said, help me with what to do. What's the Rose Bowl like? Tell me about the parade. Tell me about what the kids are supposed to do. And what he said was very unique. He said it's very, very hard to get to the Rose Bowl as a player or a coach. Very few people ever get to do it. And what you need to do is be really proud. And when you stand out in the field before the game, make sure you go out there by yourself, stand in a corner, look up in those beautiful mountains, see the sun setting, and say, this is pretty cool. And then he said, go back and do what you always do. Because he said, but take a moment to appreciate it. I'm not sure when you're wanting to win as badly as the Alabama kids are and the coaches and the Texas kids and coaches are right now, I'm not sure you can appreciate it. Because to have 3.5 hours to win a national championship is so unique that it's so important that you'll probably reflect on it later. When we looked at the Michigan win, we thought it couldn't get any better than that. The next year we beat SC, and we said, ooh, this is better than that. So now you're back to the now. And this game is very important to both teams. They're historic programs, very proud fan bases in both cases. The history of the game is so important to both. Coach Royal is still alive and has things named after him. I think Coach Bryant still walks the halls in Tuscaloosa, and he has things named after him. But everybody that sees the A and sees the Longhorn, they know the programs. And that's what makes this game so special.
Fourth row on the left.
Hi, Coach. Kim Hendricks with NBC in Montgomery, Alabama. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You're known for bringing in speakers to visit with your team, motivate them before games. Did you bring in anyone in particular for this game? And tell us how you've seen those visits affecting your team and yourself.
What you'd like to do is use the platform as a head coach to help educate your guys and try to help them learn some life lessons, because you have their attention before a game like this. Or when they've got a great team, they'll listen. The chemistry is good. And at the FCA breakfast yesterday, the young man, Jake, that had lost his eyesight, that has been around the SC team, was there and spoke. And I think we all teared up. I mean, to see how tough a young guy is at his age. And we can constantly learn. When we were watching the Super Bowl 2 years ago, there was a gentleman that caught my attention, Lieutenant Colonel Greg Gadsden. And he had his legs blown off in Iraq, and I was able to go to the Middle East and spend 8 days this summer, and got a new appreciation of number one, the young people that are out there trying to save our lives every day so we can play a game like this, and number two, that every time that they get up and walk out of their barracks, they have a chance to die. So their lives are on the line every minute. And I didn't know anything about Lieutenant Gadsden, but I saw him on the sideline for the New York Giants game. Will Muschamp's brother went to West Point with him. So I was trying to figure out how to get a hold of him and how to talk to him because I just wanted to know about his story. And Will's brother got a hold of him. He was supposed to come to our Texas Tech game and be an honorary captain. We like for our guys to meet special people. And his mother died that week, so he couldn't come. But he sent a message to us that said, just tell the guys that I'll come for the Baylor game. But the message was that you don't control your circumstances, but after you get them, you have to deal with them and make them positives. And that is so true for all of us every day. It's going to be true tomorrow night during the ball game. And he came to the Baylor game, and it was really touching for all of us. Here's a guy with 2 prostheses that he gets up and walks around on, and he doesn't wear long pants because he gets knocked down if people don't know he doesn't have legs. And he also said, this is who I am, so I want people to see who I am. He came back for the Big 12 championship game, and he'll be out here with us tomorrow night. And not as much for the ball game, but for the life lessons. And I think for him to say I was in a group of 250, a roadside bomb hit my truck. I was the only one injured in the 250. I came home, I lost my legs, and I went from being an athlete at West Point, lieutenant colonel leading a group, now I can't walk. So my life's changed. What a great message for our guy that says my hamstring's a little sore and my ankle's tweaked and I got a headache. And so I do think there's some things there that we can always show that there's people that are worse off than we are.
Third row on the left.
Yeah, Mack. Bill Roden with the New York Times.
Hey, Bill.
How you doing? Do you ever think, I know you've been asked and you probably think about coaching at the so-called next level. It seems like there's, coaching with the best players against the best coaches, against players who make more money than you. Is any of that compelling at all, or is this sort of your next level?
No, at one time it was compelling, and I think it would be dependent on if I knew the owner and I trusted the owner. I want to recruit the players that I want to coach. So if I coached somewhere else, I'd have to be in complete control, and I think that's what you get in college football. You get to make the decisions within the structure of your athletic director and your president. But I also was told one time that don't ever coach a player that you can't buy a house in his neighborhood. And that makes sense, because if he makes that much more than you do, I've heard the Joe Namath stories where Dan Henning was coaching him, and Dan jumped on Joe, and the head coach said, okay, now we're selling all these tickets. Are they coming to see you or him? So I do understand it's different.
Back row on the right.
Ruben Pizarro, Spanish Longhorns Radio Network.
Where are you, Doc? There you go, Ruben.
As in every sport, to be successful, you got to be prepared physically, technically, tactically, mentally, and nutritionally. But I want to ask, it's easy to detect when somebody needs something in the technical or tactical side. How do you do to prepare a team to be on the edge of the mental preparation? How do you approach it?
It's complicated, like we said. When you've got that many kids and you have to try to get all of them mentally prepared, you have to. I think the hardest thing about our game is, number one, you have to figure out who you are. You have to reinvent yourself each year because we're not pro football. You have to figure out who to feature. If your best pass rusher is Sergio Kendall, Will's done a great job of putting him in different situations so he can be a pass rusher that is hard for them to find. They can't just say these two guys are going to block him because he'll move him around. Nick does the same thing. I mean, they both do a tremendous job of disguising and putting in different situations. And then you have to figure out what the task difficulty. What can you handle? We didn't do that very well with our offense against Nebraska. So we're sitting here now. We're playing against a great front, a well-designed defense, a secondary that can cover you man-to-man. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure on our offensive staff to try to figure out what can we do to give our kids the best chance to win the game. And the kids know that. They're not stupid. I mean, they watch and they know. And that's why the coordinators and the head coach are so important when it comes to game planning, because a lot of the confidence that you will have going into the ball game is the feeling that you are prepared and that your coaches give you an edge. And I can remember asking David Thomas, and I know Nick does this with his team, and his team feels this way, and I hope our team feels this way. I asked David Thomas, the tight end for the New England Patriots, why does Bill Belichick win? And he said, all of our players on the team feel like he gives us an edge in the ball game with game plan. And unless coaches do that, then we're not worth what we're supposed to be worth for the kids. They need to feel like they have an advantage with you as the coach going into the game. And to do that, you have to, they're hard. I mean, you have to continually give them opportunities to find ways to be successful on the field, and that's what they expect out of you.
Far right on the aisle.
Coach, Christine Brennan, USA Today.
Hey, Christine.
Hi. A few years ago, you had a quarterback who didn't win the Heisman playing against a team with a running back who did.
Who was that?
You might remember. Worked out pretty well.
He was tall, right?
Yeah,
so.
Worked out fairly well for you guys. Curious because of the similarity with the situation this year, almost exactly the same, on the same field, the Rose Bowl. Are you using that at all for any motivation for your team?
Again, I think players use whatever they need to individually. If you ask Colt if he'd rather won the Heisman or lost it, if you ask Vince, both of them would say, I'd rather have won. They were very disappointed. Colt was more disappointed last year than he was this year because I think he felt like he had better numbers and, had a better year. But I think when you go back and look at it, what motivation would you need to play a team like Alabama, a team like SC, more than just to play for a national championship? And to me, sitting here as a Texas coach in such a proud program, I'm so proud of the last 6 years because we've played, this will be our fourth BCS game. We've played Michigan, we've played USC, we've played Ohio State, and now to play Alabama. And 2 of those 4 we'd never played before. This has been a good run, and it's fun. And for Colt McCoy to stand on the sideline and watch Vince win a national championship and then 4 years later have his chance, I really don't think that Colt, as positive as he is, I don't think that he would use a negative to motivate. I think he would want to be the national championship quarterback a lot more than he would relish being angry because he didn't win something. Last year, I thought he was upset. I thought Vince was upset because I thought Vince thought he would win it. And I don't like sitting there with the kids. I sat with Ricky Williams when he won the Heisman. I didn't like what happened to the other 3 kids or 4 kids. They have press conferences and they're just crushed. And the same thing with Colt last year. He handled it better this year. The same thing with Vince. It's a very, very disappointing thing. It's a shame that you're one of the best 3 or 4 players in America and feel like you're a loser. And that's a difficult thing for those kids. So I hope I get to go back one time, but I think I go now more in support if he loses than being there if he wins.
Third row on the left.
Mac, Tim Griffin from ESPN.com.
Hey, Tim.
Hey. I wonder if you could talk about your special teams, how important potentially kickoff returns could be, particularly with the return of DJ back into the lineup and Marquise, who's played well while he's been gone.
When you, I talked to a friend of mine that's a professional golfer the other day, and he said, you're going to have to hit most of the fairways and make some long putts and to win this game. And I think that's true. And turnovers become huge in this game, and Alabama's done a great job of protecting the football. Both teams have done a good job of forcing turnovers. Explosive plays are going to be very important. They've got more in the running game, but they can do them in the passing game. Most of ours have come in the passing game. But when there's as much man coverage and blitzing as there will be in disguising going on, there's going to have to be some big plays to win the game because I don't think either team will just run up and down the field. It hasn't happened to either defense all year. And then the kicking game with field position and a chance for an explosive play. So you try to get your fast guys in space with the ball and hope they can make something happen. And you never know in a game like this what's going to turn the game around. We've gone back and looked at our Oklahoma game. We've looked at our Nebraska game because those had similar athletes. Those 2 teams is what we will be playing tomorrow night. And it was funny. We had 7 explosive plays to 1 against Nebraska, but both teams had 3 turnovers. And we lost the kicking game 4-1. Against Oklahoma, we won the kicking game 5-0. The explosives were about the same, and we had 4 turnovers, and they lost 5. So neither one of those games did we protect the ball very well, and that'll be crucial for us to be successful tomorrow night.
Front row on the far right.
Hey, Mac. Len Robbins, New York Post.
Hey, Len.
We've made a lot this week about the differences, at least externally, between you and Nick. And it's easy, I guess, for people to see how Alabama would show up as a tough, nasty football team. But for a guy who seems and has said he enjoys the journey, how do you get your kids to show up that way on weekends?
It's really funny. I've been asked all week if I'm really nice. I was taught in a small town in Cookeville, Tennessee, to say yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. I was taught to open doors. I was taught to allow ladies to walk through and gentlemen older than I to walk through the door before I did. And if I didn't do that, I got whipped. That's what happened in my house. So I still feel Dad standing there when you walk up and shake my hand. I'm going to shake yours, and I'm going to be nice, or I'm not going to have anything to say. Nick is really nice to me. He is very respectful to me. I enjoy being around him. I know, maybe not to you all. I can feel you, but we have 2 coaches on our staff who have worked for him, and I have great respect for what they say about him. And I would think that, in truth, there's probably a lot more similarities between the 2 of us than there are differences. The way we run our programs, our practices, the toughness. It's always interesting to me. I think we have 47 active players in the NFL. We have 3 guys that have gained 1,000 yards as running backs this year in the NFL. And people say our NFL guys are soft. Well, some fools keep drafting them. So I can't figure out why, but they do. And they're all playing, and they're playing very well. This football team's won 26 of 27, and they're soft. Lord, I hope they can get tougher then tomorrow night.
On the left in the back.
I do think it's perception. I smile. I shake hands. I laugh. I like for the kids to have fun. These kids are tough. They compete. Alabama's kids are tough. They're going to compete. You're not going to get a bad team in this game. You may get one in the BCS. You're not going to get one in this game. There's 2 good teams in this game.
On your left, Coach.
Matt Kirk Bowles from the Austin American. You in Alabama.
Where are you from?
Further east. And I appreciate you opening the doors for me.
Yes. I'm not going to go there.
I know.
That'd be too easy. There's way too many cameras for this.
You can save it for later. You and Nick obviously have 2 of the best defenses in the country. Do you feel like defenses have caught up with the spread offense and maybe more emphasis to defense and running like back when you played?
I do feel like that defenses got mad last spring and spent a lot of time working on the spread. There's a lot more blitzing. There's a lot more man coverage. There's a lot more press. They're not giving the easy throws like they did a year ago. And it's something that we've even tried to adjust and work through during the year. We will have to do a great job of protecting and beating man coverage tomorrow night to be able to win the game. And it's something we've got to reevaluate this spring. But I do think that defenses did a much better job this year than they did last year. Now, if their players are as good as yours and they can line up and cover yours all over the field, it's hard to get guys open. That's just what you're doing. And in a game like tomorrow night, there's going to be some really good defensive players. There'll be a lot of NFL guys over time from both defenses. So I don't see people just making easy drives and have easy plays tomorrow night.
Final 2 questions on the left.
Max Cedric Golden, also from back east. A lot's been made of the low scores against Oklahoma and Nebraska. Do you think there's a misconception that when there's a low score in a Big 12 game that there's something wrong with those teams, whereas in the SEC they play those kind of games every week and no one seems to criticize those teams?
Yes, I grew up in the SEC. I grew up 72 miles from Nashville and 114 miles from Knoxville and loving Coach Bryant and Alabama and the tradition. And there's so much passion in the South. You can't get tickets to games. People do live and die. And we're talking about a league that's been there forever as compared to a league that's been around 12, 13 years that took a Southwest Conference and a Big 8 and put them together. And in my estimation, and watching and listening, being an SEC guy from my past, that the perception is that the football teams in the SEC are much better than the football teams in the Big 12. Fair or not fair, perception's not always reality, but that doesn't mean that the SEC is not really good. It also doesn't mean that the perceptions are right about the Big 12. What we've had is we have not had as many good teams in the Big 12. We've had some great teams. And I think you look at the defense at Oklahoma and you look at the defense at Nebraska, nobody ran up and down the field against either one of them. So it's they've got really good players and they're a really good defense. Our defense is the same. So when you get a game like that, as we said, we've averaged 40-something points since we've been at Texas. And when we score 16, everybody thinks it's a bad game. They get all over our offensive staff. I think you've got to give credit to the other side.
Final question on the left.
Ivan Mazel, ESPN.com. Mac, when you're not sleeping tonight, what will be racing through your mind?
When you get anxious before the ball game because you're number one, we're 2 hours different. So I'm waking up at 4 now thinking it's at 6. You'd think I'd get over that after a week. But what you're doing is you're making sure that you're going through a checklist in your mind. Are they going to onside kick to open the game? Do we? Where do you punt it? How do you protect? What about your fakes? What about protection? How do you start the game? How do you get your offense more comfortable than they were against Nebraska? What do you do on defense? As Alabama opened it up with a wide-open offense against Florida to start the game differently than they had in some other games? Will they start with drop back and play action against us? Will they try to run Ingram to start the game? What am I supposed to say? I'll have 122 sets of eyes looking at me, an entire staff looking at me tomorrow afternoon at about 2 o'clock, wanting me to put some sense into how important this game is. I want you focused. I want you tough. I want you ready to play, but I want you to have fun, which gets really contradictory when they're looking at you. Is it important, Coach? Yeah. It's a national championship. You're the best at what you do in the country, and you got 3.5 hours to prove it. You want to respect Alabama, but you don't want to have your team where they're not sure that they think you think they can win, because they have to know myself and our coaches think we can win. So all of those things go through your mind. What can you say in a 5-minute period to relax them and make sure they're focused? It's when they've had a month and 2 days to prepare for this. So it's a real unique time, because we will go to they call it a ghost hotel. So we'll get out of our hotel. We'll be somewhere it's really quiet, and we'll have time. This afternoon's kind of fun. We'll have pictures at the Rose Bowl. Only 7 of our kids have ever seen the Rose Bowl. So they'll be able to walk around and talk about the history of the Rose Bowl and think about the game. Then we'll go to our hotel. We'll have a chapel for those that are interested this afternoon. They'll stay in their rooms and watch a movie tonight. I'm going to watch Troy in Central Michigan. I'm pumped about that one. So I've already got it on my slate for dinner. We'll have us a little team dinner, and then we'll have meetings tonight, and then we'll have our regular routine, because one of the things that I don't think you can do is I heard, and I'll close with this because I've been long. Sonia Richards was a great track star, is a great track star from Texas, and she's engaged to Aaron Ross of the New York Giants. In fact, it's the only pro football player that his girlfriend can outrun him. I've always said that. It's really embarrassing for him, but it's true, and he's not going to get any faster. He cannot beat her. And short or long, he can't beat her. It doesn't matter. But she loses the gold medal, and she's way ahead, and she pulls up. And it crushed her. I sat there and watched her. And her whole life, she wanted to win that gold medal. And then 3 days later, she was in the relays, and she just burned everybody on the last leg and won the gold medal. So we had her come and talk to our team. We didn't tell her what to say. We didn't know what she would say. And we sat and listened, and she gave one of the best messages I've ever heard. She said, what happened to me in the Olympics is that I wanted to win the gold medal so badly that I couldn't sleep, and I was very uncomfortable, and I thought so much about winning that I didn't prepare. I didn't take the proper fluids. I didn't eat properly. And when I thought I had it won because of the lack of preparation, I pulled up. She said 3 days later, I went back and said, forget it. I've got to be who I am. I've got to do what I do, and I've got to do what I do best. So I had to go back and prepare to win the gold, not just sit and look at winning the gold. So what we've done with our team is said, it's about the pieces. It's not about the whole. It's about the now. And what you've got to do is prepare every day like it's the opening game of the year, like it's the Oklahoma game, like it's the Nebraska game for the Big 12 championship, because you can't be something you're not. You are who you are. And what we have to do, we haven't played our best game yet. They don't have to play perfect. It's college football. It's kids. They're not going to play perfect. We're not going to do a perfect job of coaching. But what we all have to do is I have to do my best. And each player, we have a little saying, all in. Each player is here for a reason. And each of them has to do their best. And if our best isn't good enough, we'll be disappointed and go home and start working on spring practice. But we can't do more than who we are. And when you start trying to be something you're not or do more than what you can do, that's when you get in trouble and get beat, in my estimation. Alabama has lost 2 games in 2 years. Texas has lost 1 game in 2 years. What you all are going to see is 2 very confident coaching staffs and 2 very confident teams play as hard as they can for 3.5 hours to win a national championship. And it is very unusual to have 2 undefeated teams in the national championship. The BCS got lucky. Same thing in 2005. We sat here in 2005, and SC was an unbelievable team. And I can remember Texas was soft. I can remember NFL guys are soft. I can remember we don't have a chance. And our guys played great that night. I also remember standing out on the field before the game and looking down at SC and seeing the horse and the band and all the good stuff about SC that all of us grew up with. And I saw Pete and talked to him for a while. And I was standing there, and Greg Davis, the offensive coordinator, came up. And I said, my gosh, they got a great-looking football team. Look at those guys. And he just patted me on the shoulder, and he said, well, turn around. Yours look pretty good, too. And I thought that was pretty good. I'm not sure that we ever give ourselves enough credit. We've got a good team, too.